110, Euro-friendly Moby Dick reading live on October 12th, 2024. Boom, 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 boom. Howdy, y'all. Joe Hills here, recording as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee. And today on the Hermitcraft server, we're doing something a little bit different, a little bit special, every Saturday night. Normally, I would be doing some large-scale grinding here on the Hermitcraft server for about 2 hours while I read fiction. Now, normally, we would pick something short, like, I don't know, The Cask of Amontillado or The Raven. But you know what? I gave something different a try last season. I was like, what if we just try to read a novel? What if we just try and go through Dracula? And, yeah, we got all the way through Dracula. It took about a year, but we got all the way through Dracula while I did grindy stuff on the server, Anyway, just as a reminder, I'm down here in slot 9, putting the hot in the hot bar. And let's see, what do we need to do before we get this stream started? There's going to be no music on this stream because these reading streams, we want to make sure the VODs don't get copyright struck or taken down or whatever. So, instead of me doing all this setup while I am listening to music, I'm doing all this setup live while talking to you. Woo! This is also a Euro-friendly time because this weekend is the last weekend of fall break here in Nashville. And my schedule is really weird because we got all sorts of commitments and stuff going on. So, unfortunately, I can't do my Saturday night stream tonight, but at least not tonight, Tennessee time. But we're going to do it now. So I've got 2 hours of mining to do while we read Moby Dick. Just as a reminder, if you want my updated stream schedule, you can always get it at joehills.net/soon, which I'm going to post a link to. Yeah. So, early Moby Dick stream is on the calendar for today. Nothing tonight. Tomorrow we're definitely doing an 8:30 at night stream. I'm going to see how things go today. We might end up doing some sort of midday stream tomorrow, too. But honestly, the problem is everybody's constantly moving stuff around. We're trying to schedule stuff with my daughter's friends. Stuff gets canceled, stuff gets moved, stuff gets updated. It's all over the place, which is fine. That's part of the chaos of fall break. In some ways, fall break is easier when you go away because... when you go away, you don't have to, you just do your vacation thing, with yourself or your group. You don't have to, you're not spending the whole break coordinating with other parents and stuff. Okay, so, let's see, any questions before we get started? I should probably pull up the whole, for the people who, want to go back, if you enjoy this Moby Dick reading, and you want to check out the playlist later. Let me go ahead and link that. Honestly, I'm going to tell you, this is not a book that you have to read in order. You might think, oh boy, it's one of the greatest novels of all time. Of course I need to read it in order. This story is told so bizarrely that, honestly, you could just kind of jump in anywhere and then start over later if it's interesting. It's like the movie Bullet Train. I started watching the movie Bullet Train in the middle, and I was like, hey, this is a pretty good movie. Maybe I'll go back and watch the whole thing some point. Okay. So let's see. Where were we? We are here on the Hermitcraft server. Welcome, Red Velvet Rabbit. Yeah, we're still getting set up. I don't have my links pinned yet. We got to get that pinned. What we're reading, Chapter 70, is where we're starting today. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Boy. YouTube chat, very empty today. Iconic Anemone and Lone Courier. Thank you for confirming it's working at all. I know we're at a weird time, though. Florence Pie says, good morning. Euro-friendly hours are great, even when I'm here in the U.S. Well, just as a reminder, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Those do end up helping determine what things happen at what times. So, Yeah, it does help. If you enjoy this particular stream at this particular time, any support would be appreciated. We had a crazy month last month financially, and we're still recovering from it. So this is not one of those points where it's like, oh boy, I hope people tip so I can put extra money into my bank account. It's like, oh boy, I really need to pay a lot of bills by the end of the month, and it would be fantastic if I could do that. So, yeah. Things are good on the whole, but it's just that, yeah, weddings and honeymoons, and then emergency dentistry, and then a bunch of other stuff. Everything, it's all manageable as long as I show up for work and actually make some money. And so I'm just gonna believe that if I'm here working, hopefully, money, question mark. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Badger's tooth is definitely feeling better, now that it's been, extracted. We actually have a follow-up appointment later this week, which I'm also gonna have to pay for. And so, hopefully, I don't think the follow-up appointment's gonna be as expensive as the extraction. This is more of like a checkup to make sure everything went well, rather, like, I don't think they're gonna have to do, okay, here's $140 worth of x-rays. Here's $1,200 worth of pulling a tooth out. Nine Sharkman says, Joe, are you a dark mode user? They're not a sponsor, and so I don't really talk about what I use unless I'm getting paid to. I'm not at a point where I can just talk about what software to use for free. But honestly, I don't think I've even heard of them. Okay. So let's see what we got here. Posinator says, thank you for the Euro-friendly time. Is that like ice cream where it's a la mode? Is that dark side versus light side? Is this a Star Wars bit? Are you marketing Disney in my chat? I don't know what's going on anymore. Okay. Let's just jump into chapter 70 of Moby Dick, the Sphinx. Now, before as I'm about to start reading this, I realize one thing I should mention is that Ishmael, the speaker in this novel, like, the idea is, even though the novel is written by Moby Dick, this is a story told by Ishmael, and Ishmael is doing the organizing. Like, the way the chapters are written is based on what the character would think, right? This is a character's retelling of a story as written by Herman Melville. And so one of Ishmael's quirks, this is not something Melville does in everything he does, but one of Ishmael's quirks, and by extension Melville now, is he constantly ends a chapter, and then the next chapter starts with, oh, one thing that I forgot to mention in that last chapter. Let me roll in. Okay. So we're jumping right into one of those. I usually try not to start the stream with one of those. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention last chapter is, but the last, 6 chapters in a row all started that way. And so there was no good stopping point in the last stream other than exhaustion. We read 6 or 7 chapters in a row last stream. And, yeah, now we had to move up forward at a certain point. Okay. So, chapter 70. The Sphinx. It should not have been omitted that previous to completely stripping the body of the Leviathan, he was beheaded. Now, the beheading of the sperm whale is a scientific anatomical feat upon which experienced whale surgeons very much pride themselves, and not without reason. Consider that the whale has nothing that can properly be called a neck. On the contrary, where his head and his body seem to join, there is, in that very place, the thickest part of him. Remember also that the surgeon must operate from above, some 8 or 10 feet intervening between him and his subject, and that subject almost hidden in a discolored, rolling, and oftentimes tumultuous and bristling sea. Bear in mind, too, that under these untoward circumstances, he has to cut many feet deep into the flesh, and in that subterraneous manner, without so much as getting one single peep into the ever-contracting gash thus made. He must skillfully steer clear of all adjacent interdicted parts and exactly divide the spine at a critical point, hard by its insertion into the skull. Do you not marvel, then, at Stubbs' boast that he demanded but 10 minutes to behead a sperm whale? When first severed, the head is dropped astern and held there by a cable till the body is stripped. That done, if it belong to a small whale, it is hoisted on deck to be deliberately disposed of. But with a full-grown leviathan, this is impossible, for the sperm whale's head embraces nearly 1/3 of his entire bulk. And completely to suspend such a burden as that, even by the immense tackles of a whaler, this were as vain a thing as to attempt weighing a Dutch barn in jeweler's scales. The Pequod's whale being decapitated and the body stripped, the head was hoisted against the ship's side, about halfway out of the sea, so that it might yet in great part be buoyed up by its native element, and there, with the strained craft steeply leaning over it, by reason of the enormous downward drag from the lower masthead, and every yard arm on the side projecting like a crane o'er the waves, there, that blood-dripping head hung to the Pequod's waist like the giant Holofernes from the girdle of Judith. When this last task was accomplished, it was noon, and the seamen went below to their dinner. Silence reigned over the before tumultuous but now deserted deck. An intense copper calm, like a universal yellow lotus, was more and more unfolding its noiseless, measureless leaves upon the sea. A short space elapsed, and up into this noiselessness came Ahab, alone, from his cabin. Taking a few turns on the quarterdeck, he paused to gaze over the side. Then, slowly getting into the main chains, he took Stubbs' long spade, still remaining there after the whale's decapitation, and striking it into the lower part of the half-suspended mass, placed its other end crutchwise under one arm, and so stood leaning o'er, with eyes attentively fixed on this head. It was a black and hooded head, and hanging there in the midst of so intense a calm, it seemed the Sphinx's in the desert. "Speak, thou vast and venerable head," muttered Ahab, "which, though ungarnished with a beard, yet here and there lookest hoary with mosses. Speak, mighty head, and tell us the secret thing that is in thee. Of all divers, thou hast dived the deepest. That head upon which the upper sun now gleams has moved amidst the world's foundations, where unrecorded names and navies rust, and untold hopes and anchors rot, where in her murderous hold this frigate earth is ballasted with the bones of millions of the drowned. There, in that awful waterland, there was thy most familiar home. Thou hast been where bell nor diver never went, hast slept by many a sailor's side, where sleepless mothers would give their lives to lay down. Thou sawest the locked lovers when leaping from their flaming ship. Heart to heart they sank beneath the exulting wave, true to each other, when heaven seemed false to them. Thou sawest the murdered mate when tossed by pirates from the midnight deck. For hours he fell into the deeper midnight of the insatiate maw, and his murderers still sailed on unharmed, while swift lightnings shivered the neighboring ship that would have borne a righteous husband to outstretched longing arms. O head, thou hast seen enough to split the planets and make an infidel of Abraham, and not one syllable is thine.
Sail ho!
Cried a triumphant voice from the main masthead. Ah, well, now that's cheering, cried Ahab, suddenly erecting himself, while whole thunderclouds swept aside from his brow. That lively cry upon this deadly calm might almost convert a better man. Where away?
3 points on the starboard bow, sir, and bringing down her breeze to us.
Better and better, man. Would now St. Paul would come along that way, and so to my breezelessness bring his breeze. O nature, O soul of man, how far beyond all utterance are your linked analogies, and not the smallest atom stirs or lives on matter, but has its cunning duplicate in mind. And that concludes Chapter 70 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. That was a pretty straightforward chapter, you know. Everybody goes to take lunch, and Ahab gets out a big blade and goes talks into a whalehead, you know. Pretty normal stuff, you know, for this book anyway. A lot of signs that Ahab might be a little bit too contemplative. Not in like a healthy way, but more of a, oh, he always seemed like a nice guy, kept to himself mostly, kind of way. Okay, so just as a reminder, if you enjoy Minecraft streams with a touch of something else, in this case, Moby Dick, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Morning, Woken World, Matt Limbago and Vu Rango. Howdy, Centauratron and Ellis. Welcome, Art Omelet. Just as a reminder, I'm not going to necessarily be greeting people or reading tips in the middle of a chapter. This next chapter is a little bit longer, so I probably will take a break at some point in the middle of it. Chapter 71 is called The Jeroboam Story, and I need to update that What We're Reading link so people can find it. Bum, 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 bum. We had a particularly successful stream last night. I sent Mumbo a letter in the Hermitcraft mail asking if he would like an attorney. And he sent me back something. Shocking. We actually managed to get something to Mumbo at a time he was going to see it. Granted, that was like 4 a.m. my time, which is why I guess a lot of our conversations aren't very quick back and forth. But yeah, he got back to me, and he is going to have an interview for me in his next episode to see if I would be a suitable attorney. So I don't have the job yet, but the job is still available. That is key. The fact that this door is still open is very exciting to me. So, yeah, so last night we sent a letter to Mumbo in the Hermitcraft mail, seeing if he needs an attorney. He does need an attorney, and he is willing to consider hiring me. That's great. I'm going to be honest, I was a little worried that, like, he was going to be like, actually, you know what, I've been talking to Stress, and Stress wants to get back into Hermitcraft and really needs this part, you know, something like that, where it's just like, I can't feel bad about that, because I would love for Stress to be back on the server and hanging out in the courtroom, but I really want this job. So, yeah, so that's good. He said, though, he did warn me, I'm not going to be the only person he's interviewing. So, this is not a done deal. This is not a done deal. but I am feeling pretty good about it. Okay. So, I mean, this is, like, it's an opportunity. That's all I wanted was an opportunity, and that's what we got. So, very excited about that. Red Velvet Rabbit said, I'm excited for Joe the Attorney Part 2. Thank you. We've got also a few other things going on here. We took care of last night. Let's see. We figured out what we're going to do for the map underneath our, what do you call it? Hello, my name is name tag. Let me pull that window up real quick. Where's that window? So we figured out that the Badlands map from Team Fortress 2 will fit underneath Hello, my name is laser tag if we only use the third section, the final section of Badlands. That's a pretty classic map. Goes back to the Team Fortress days. Was modernized for Team Fortress 2. Very recognizable. Also, I've decided that, one of the things that was kind of... So, I don't want to use the word discouraging, because that might be too negative. But sometimes when I start working on a project, if I see somebody else doing something very similar to it, it's not necessarily discouraging, but it forces me to reconsider my approach, to differentiate it, right? It's, so it's not discouraging, it's reallocating, it's refocusing. But yeah, I didn't realize when I originally planned this that Cub Fan was building a fireworks arena, and that Gem and some other people were apparently also building PvP arenas. And so I realized I really need something to differentiate my arena further from what they were doing. Well, so Centauratron suggests reinvigorating. The problem is so invigorating means like it drives me to action, but what this drives me to do is to pause and reevaluate. So it's actually slowing down the action. You get a better concept at the end because I've actually taken more time to think this through. This is a good part of creatively working with other people on the Hermitcraft server. I'm not trying to complain about this. I'm just trying to explain, that, like, okay, I have to reiterate more times than I intended sometimes when other people do something on the server too similar to what I was already planning, right? So it does slow me down, but it boosts the final product. So there's a trade-off there. But yeah, so by making my PvP arena not only a team arena, but also an attack-defense map, where the the attacking team would have X amount of time to capture the control points. I would have to figure out a good way to make that work. Florence the Machine says, hey, Joe, I'm working today since the tax deadline is coming up. Super happy to have a chill stream while I work. Hey, I'm glad. I'm arguably working too. If anybody would like to help me justify that this is actual work and not just me disappearing in the middle of the day to play Minecraft, tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Let's go ahead and repair that pickaxe. That one's about done. And then we'll get into chapter 71, which is once again a longer chapter, so we might take a break in the middle of it. Lakshmi13 says, has anyone ever done a tower defense game in Hermitcraft? I don't know. I think to make a tower defense game, you'd have to The problem is you need creatures that are willing to follow a path, and I don't know how easy it is to path creatures. Like, I guess you could try and path zombies toward turtle eggs or something, and then build snowmen, but snowmen can't actually harm the zombies. So you could use the blaze. Blazes aren't gonna attack. Okay, so let's see. Tom March says, I see you're still mining rock. Yep, that's not the only thing I'm doing on Hermitcraft these days, now that we've got that last episode done, but that is what we do on Saturdays. You can use fire with snowmen to make flaming snowballs. Can you? So could they throw flaming snowballs at the zombies or something, maybe? Physical taco. I don't control the invites. That's what it means. It means I don't control the invites. No one controls the invites. There's no good formal process for it either. We reinvent the process every time that we decide that we want to add people. It's a mess. It's a nightmare. We don't like talking about it because it deeply upsets us. It's everything that's dysfunctional about us trying to get organized, but the stakes are higher than ever. It's miserable. Okay, so let's talk about something happier. Thank you to Red Velvet Rabbit for our first tip of the day for tipping 20, who says expand. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. I'm down here in slot 9 putting the hop in the hopper. Here we go. It's time to expand, Joe. Do. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on to Chapter 71. Did I actually pin these? What we're reading? Chapter 71. No, I didn't actually pin these. What we're reading. Okay, so here is the Chapter 71 pin on YouTube. And here is the Chapter 71 pin for Twitch. There we go, updated. Okay, so, Chapter 71, The Jeroboam Story, from Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. Hand in hand, ship and breeze blew on, but the breeze came faster than the ship, and soon the Pequod began to rock. By and by, through the glass, the strangers' boats and manned mastheads proved her a whale ship. But as she was so far to the windward, and shooting by, apparently making a passage to some other ground, the Pequod could not hope to reach her. So the signal was sent to see what response would be made. Here, be it said, that like the vessels of military marines, the ships of the American whale fleet each have a private signal, all which signals being collected in a book with the names of the respected vessels attached. Every captain is provided with it. Thereby, whale commanders are enabled to recognize each other upon the ocean, even at considerable distances, and with no small facility. The Pequod signal was at last responded to by the stranger setting her own, which proved the ship to be the Jeroboam of Nantucket. Squaring her yards, she bore down, ranged a beam under the Pequod's lee, and lowered a boat. It soon drew nigh, but as the side ladder was being rigged by Starbuck's order to accommodate the visiting captain, the stranger in question waved his hand from his boat's stern in token of that proceeding being entirely unnecessary. It turned out that the Jeroboam had a malignant epidemic on board, and that Mayhew, the captain, was fearful of inspecting the Pequod's company. For though himself and boat's crew remained untainted, and though his ship was half a rifle shot off, and an incorruptible sea and air rolling and flowing between, yet conscientiously adhering to the timid quarantine of the land, he peremptorily refused to come into direct contact with the Pequod. But this did by no means prevent all communications. Preserving an interval of some few yards between itself and the ship, the Jeroboam's boat, by the occasional use of its own oars, contrived to keep parallel to the Pequod, as she heavily forged through the sea. And by this time it blew very fresh. With her main topsail aback, though, indeed at times, by the sudden onset of a large rolling wave, the boat would be pushed some way ahead, but would soon skillfully be brought to her proper bearings again. Subject to this and other the like interruptions now and then, a conversation was sustained between the two parties, but, at intervals, not without still another interruption of a very different sort. Pulling an oar in the Jeroboam's boat was a man of a singular appearance, even in that wild whaling life where individual notabilities make up all totalities. He was a small, short, youngish man, sprinkled all over his face with freckles, and wearing redundant yellow hair. A long-skirted, cabalistically cut coat of a faded walnut tinge enveloped him, the overlapping sleeves of which were rolled up on his wrists. A deep, settled, fanatic delirium was in his eyes. So soon as this figure had been first descried, Stubb had exclaimed, "That's he! That's he! The long-togged scaramouche the town hose company told us of." Stubb here alluded to a strange story told of the Jeroboam, and a certain man among her crew, some time previous, when the Pequod spoke the town ho. According to this account, and what was subsequently learned, it seemed that the scaramouche in question had gained a wonderful ascendancy over almost everybody in the Jeroboam. His story was this. He had originally been nurtured among the crazy society of Neskuna Shakers, where he had been a great prophet. In their cracked secret meetings, having several times descended from heaven by the way of a trap door, announcing the speedy opening of the 7th vial, which he carried in his vest pocket, but which, instead of containing gunpowder, was supposed to be charged with laudanum. A strange apostolic whim having seized him, he had left Neskuna for Nantucket, where, with that cunning peculiar to craziness, he assumed a steady, common-sense exterior, and offered himself as a green-hand candidate for the Jeroboam's whaling voyage. They engaged him, but straightway upon the ship's getting out of sight of land, his insanity broke out in a freshet. He announced himself as the Archangel Gabriel, and commanded the captain to jump overboard. He published his manifesto, whereby he set himself forth as the deliverer of the Isles of the Sea and the Vicar General of all Oceanica. The unflinching earnestness with which he declared these things, the dark, daring play of his sleepless, excited imagination, and all the preternatural terrors of real delirium, united to invest this Gabriel, in the minds of the majority of the ignorant crew, with an atmosphere of sacredness. Moreover, they were afraid of him. As such a man, however, was not of much practical use in the ship, especially as he refused to work except when he pleased. The incredulous captain would fain have been rid of him, but apprised that the individual attention was to land him in the first convenient port, the Archangel forthwith opened all his seals and vials, devoting the ship and all hands to unconditional perdition, in case the intention was carried out. So strongly did he work upon his disciples among the crew, that at last in a body they went to the captain and told him that if Gabriel was sent from the ship, not a man of them would remain. He was therefore forced to relinquish his plan. Nor would they permit Gabriel to be in any way maltreated, say or do what he would, so that it would come to pass that Gabriel had complete freedom of the ship. The consequence of all this was that the Archangel cared little or nothing for the captain and his mates, and since the epidemic had broken out, he carried a higher hand than ever, declaring that the plague, as he called it, was at his sole command, nor should it be stayed but according to his good pleasure. The sailors, mostly poor devils, cringed, and some of them fawned before him, in obedience to his instructions, and sometimes rendering him personal homage as a god. Such things may seem incredible, but however wondrous, they are true. Nor is this history of fanatics half so striking in respect to the measureless self-deception of the fanatic himself, as his measureless power of deceiving and bedeviling so many others. But it is time to return to the Pequod. Okay, so this is one of the longer chapters, so I'm going to take a quick break here. So yeah, if you're coming in and you haven't seen the other chapters, yeah, the Town Ho was another ship that they got news from earlier. And it's wild the amount of word that gets around on the ocean. Okay. It's like, oh yeah, it's on a whaling ship in the middle of nowhere. But, like, somebody else, any ship is going to have people coming and going at various times, especially a ship with problems. A ship with problems, like a wild prophet giving people laudanum to follow him, is gonna be a ship where some right-thinking, well-meaning, hard-working folks are gonna say, you know what, maybe if they're not gonna throw this guy off at the next port, I'm gonna leave at the next port. And then when that guy gets to the next port and he's like trying to find work, he's like telling people, oh, they're like, okay, so why did you leave your previous employer? And he's like, okay, so there's this guy who said he'd never worked on a whale ship before. He was a green hand, but, you know, he was willing to work cheap. Turns out he thinks he's the Archangel Gabriel, and he's brought a bunch of laudanum on board that he's drugging the crew with so they follow him as a prophet. And the crew threatened a mutiny if the captain got rid of him. So I was looking at that and decided, you know what, maybe I'll get off at the next port instead, you know? And then, you know, so you have a few interviews, you talk to a few different crews like that. You know, finally one of them gets back to you, hires you, but in the meantime, those guys you talk to, they're talking to their people. They're like, oh my God, you hear about the Jeroboam and their Angel Gabriel problem? Like, it's always a bad sign, even if you don't know exactly what an Angel Gabriel problem is. You're like, Jeroboam's got an Angel Gabriel problem. Okay, now I'm invested. Tell me more, right? That's one of those openers. Yeah, and so before you know it, even if the crew of the Town Ho never met this guy themselves that abandoned the ship and started, like, telling stories about it, everybody knows. So, I gotta say, I'm kind of curious. Now, this is another Nantucket ship, right? And so the crew of the Pequod are currently engaged in butchering a whale, which is one of the most manually intensive parts of the whale fishery business. all hands are basically devoted to this task right now. They're taking a quick break because it's very rare to see another ship from Nantucket out here. You know, there's whalers from all over the world, but getting to see somebody from your hometown, you might know some of the crew. That's the thing. So, maybe you don't know some of the crew. I say that because the crew come from all over the world, as they pointed out. They come from Africa, Spain, Europe. Europe is part of Spain these days. Scratch that, reverse it. But you know what I mean. But like the mates, the officers, like Stubb and Flask and Ahab, right? They're all Nantucketers. They're born in Nantucket. They're raised in Nantucket. They came up on Nantucket ships. They're going to know the mates, like basically the officers, the high-ranking people, the captain of this ship possibly. Even if they don't know him personally, they're going to at least know them by reputation. They might know their families, even if they don't know the guys themselves, because it's like, oh, hey, yeah, my kid goes to school with your kid, right? We never met because we're always on different ships at different times, but, like, I've heard of you. You know? So, like, to what degree does the Pequod have the capacity to help another ship that's got two problems right now? They have a real plague problem, and they have a real Angel Gabriel problem. Right? So, this is complicated, too, by the fact that nobody from the Pequod can go visit the other ship to check on things because of the plague. That's the other thing, is we're assuming here, for the sake of argument, that the Jeroboam does have a real plague, and that this is not some sort of excuse for just keeping the captain from actually stepping foot on the Pequod, right? Like, if Gabriel is among the oarsmen here to keep an eye on this and make sure that nothing's said to upset his cult ship. And it's interesting, thematically, because Ahab is also kind of running a cult ship, but more subtly, right? Like, all ships, to some degree, have some cult of personality around following the captain and whatnot. But Ahab is turning that up to 11. Here we're seeing a ship that's turned up to 12. And where the crew is being led in this cult ship, not by the captain himself, but by a crew member, who, for all we know, might have gotten to the captain. Maybe the captain is actually currently under either duress or genuinely actively following this guy because he believes he's the Angel Gabriel, and he's now addicted to laudanum. So we've got there's a lot of gears within gears here. Lakshmi13 says about the tower defense game in Minecraft. I was thinking, what if there was a set rail track with mobs moving along it like Ravagers and Ravager Rush, and the game is to place mobs like snow or island golems in allowed areas, so the Minecraft mobs never made it to the end. I think you would need a way to determine the difference between a cart with mobs in it and a cart without mobs in it. Does a comparator cart... Is there like a comparator track? I know the detector rail goes off if there's a cart above it, but can it send a different signal if the cart is empty versus has a creeper in it? Or a zombie or a skeleton? I honestly don't know. The detector rail can be used to tell if a cart is empty or not. So, okay, so you could tell how many mobs got to the end and subtract health from the player in this theoretical tower defense game. So if you put iron golems in the carts and had skeletons do it... The problem is, how would you place skeletons? I feel like you have to be placing snowmen as the towers, because that's one of the only things that players can create that can attack mobs. But Apparently, we have to get the snowmen to throw the snowballs through fire in order to set the mobs on fire, which is a whole thing. Oh, hey, bud. I'm mining here. Are we getting close to your area? Yeah, we are. Sorry. Okay. But yeah, I've been thinking a lot about tower defense games lately because I've been playing Rock On Island and UFO 50. Which I want to do more UFO 50 on stream. I might see how everybody's doing after this Minecraft stream. And come back to that. Because I get nervous when I skip my Saturday night streams about not streaming extra during the day. I feel like I should, if I'm not going to stream at night, I should make up for it by streaming extra during the day. And this is not like out of a sense of like, no, Joe, you should take time off. You don't owe the viewers anything. But more out of like, I definitely owe the electric company something, and I owe the landlord something, and I owe the health insurance people something. So it's about what I owe everyone. It's like, oh boy, I'm skipping Saturday night stream. Maybe I should do a few streams during the day on Saturday, because none of them individually are going to make as much as that Saturday night one would have. But the landlord doesn't care about that. So yeah, just as a reminder, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Okay, so I think we're going to continue... I think we're going to continue here, right? So, once again, we've got two ships that are basically entirely taken over by cults. Ahab has his cult of personality, where he's basically commandeered the ship from the other owner so we can pursue Moby Dick. And we've got the Archangel Gabriel's ship, the Jeroboam. And we don't know what their whole thing is, but... yeah, both ships have stuff that they don't necessarily want word of getting back to Nantucket at this point. So, let's see how this goes. So, let's see. Before we do that, I'm going to swap my pickaxe out, because it's easier to do inventory management when I am not actively reading. People are like, how do you read while you play Minecraft? Well, for one thing, certain tasks are easier than others. So, let's... do those certain tasks that are harder than others right now first. Yeah. Okay. So, the last line that we read was Ishmael saying, "But it is time to return to the Pequod." "I fear not thy epidemic, man," said Ahab from the bulwarks to Captain Mayhew, who stood on the boat's stern. "Come on aboard!" But now... Gabriel started to his feet.
Think of the fevers, yellow and bilious. Beware of the horrible plague.
Gabriel, cried Captain Mayhew. Thou must either... But that instant a headlong wave shot the boat far ahead, and its seethings drowned all his speech. "Hast thou seen the white whale?" demanded Ahab when the boat drifted back.
Think of thy whaleboat, stove in and sunk. Beware of the horrible tale.
"I tell thee again, Gabriel, that..." But again the boat tore ahead as if dragged by fiends. Nothing was said for some moments while a succession of riotous waves rolled by, which, by one of these occasional caprices of the seas, were tumbling and not heaving. Meantime, the hoisted sperm whale's head jogged about very violently, and Gabriel was seen eyeing it with rather more apprehensiveness than his archangel nature seemed to warrant. When this interlude was over, Captain Mayhew began a dark story concerning Moby Dick. Not, however, without frequent interruptions from Gabriel, whenever his name was mentioned, and the crazy sea that seemed leagued with him. It seemed that the Jeroboam had not long left home, when upon speaking a whale ship, her people were reliably apprised of the existence of Moby Dick and the havoc he had made. Greedily sucking in this intelligence, Gabriel solemnly warned the captain against attacking the white whale in case the monster should be seen. In his gibbering insanity, pronouncing the white whale to be no less than a shaker god incarnated, the Shakers receiving the Bible. But when some year or two afterward, Moby Dick... Oh, real quick. Year or two. Gabriel has been on this ship doling out laudanum and screwing with his crew for over 2 years. Okay, I'm sorry. I try not to interject too much in the middle of this. But, like, the captain, who does not appear to be in league with Gabriel, but is just putting up with him, has been dealing with this for 2 years. No wonder word got around. Okay. Sorry. Where's he getting that much laudanum from? Well, I mean, they do put in at ports occasionally. So, I mean, you could... But also, I think laudanum... Like, he said he had, like, a bunch of vials. Like, I think you dilute laudanum. I think it's, like, super dense, would be my guess. But I don't know. I don't really know how much laudanum you need to control a ship. And, like, maybe he's not using it on everybody. He's only using it on people that are particularly unsusceptible to other means of stuff. But, yeah, 2 years. 2 years of dealing with this. Oh, my goodness. Poor Captain Mayhew. Yeah. We're going to have to go do a lot of reading. Don't worry. I'm sure Ishmael will have, like, 3 chapters where he's like, you might wonder about laudanum. I don't think he does. I don't think he has... Because laudanum is not directly whaling related, but that it wouldn't surprise me if the next chapter was, so you might wonder how somebody on board a ship does get access to laudanum. And so we're going to talk about how ships transfer goods between them with or without the captain's notice during the transfer of regular goods. But yeah, okay. Sorry. That was I'm just a little bit incredulous. This is kind of like reading to a kid, where it's like, you know, for the most part, we're trying to get through the book, but like, okay, let's just take a second. Okay, so laudanum itself is a tincture of opium and alcohol. So if he had raw opium, he could make his own laudanum, and then use the laudanum to dilute, and then dilute the laudanum further and other things. Okay. So this is a multi-step dilution process. Multi-step dilution process. That makes sense. Okay. So, let's go ahead then and continue. But when, some year or two afterwards, Moby Dick was fairly sighted from the mastheads, Macy, the chief mate, burned with ardor to encounter him. And the captain himself, not being unwilling to let him have the opportunity, despite all the Archangel's denunciations and forewarnings, Macy succeeded in persuading 5 men to man his boat. With them, he pushed off, and after much weary pulling and many perilous, unsuccessful onsets, he at last succeeded at getting 1 iron fast. Meantime, Gabriel, ascending to the main masthead, was tossing one arm in frantic gestures and hurling forth prophecies of speedy doom to the sacrilegious assailants of his divinity. Now, while Macy the mate was standing up in his boat's bow, and with all the reckless energy of his tribe, was venting his wild exclamations upon the whale, and essaying to get a fair chance for his poised lance, lo, a broad white shadow rose from the sea, by its quick fanning motion, temporarily taking the breath out of the bodies of the oarsmen. Next instant, the luckless mate, so full of furious life, was smitten bodily into the air, and making a long arc in his descent, fell into the sea at a distance of about 50 yards. Not a chip of the boat was harmed, nor a hair of any oarsman's head, but the mate forever sank. It is well to parenthesize here that of the fatal accidents in the sperm whale fishery, this kind is perhaps almost as frequent as any. Sometimes nothing is injured but the man who is thus annihilated. Oftener, the boat's bow is knocked off, or the thigh-board in which the headsmen stand is torn from its place and accompanies the body. But strangest of all is the circumstance that in more instances than one, when the body is recovered, not a single mark of violence is discernible, the man being stark dead. The whole calamity, with the failing form of Macy, was plainly descried from the ship. Raising a piercing shriek, "The vial! The vial!" Gabriel called off the terror-stricken crew from the further hunting of the whale. This terrible event clothed the archangel with added influence, because his credulous disciples believed he had specifically foreannounced it, instead of only making a general prophecy, which anyone might have done, and so have chanced to hit one of many marks in the wide margin allowed. He became a nameless terror to the ship. Mayhew, having concluded his narration, Ahab put such questions to him that the stranger captain could not forbear inquiring whether he intended to hunt the white whale if opportunity should offer. To which Ahab answered, "Aye." Straightway then, Gabriel once more started to his feet, glaring upon the old man, and vehemently exclaimed with downward pointed finger, "Think! Think of the blasphemer! Dead and down there!" Oh, wait, sorry, that was the wrong voice. I was trying to remember the voice I did.
Think of the blasphemer, dead and down there. Beware of the blasphemer's end.
Ahab stolidly turned aside, then said to Mayhew, "Captain, I have just bethought me of my letter bag. There is a letter for one of thine officers, if I mistake not. Starbuck, look over the bag." Every whale ship takes out a goodly number of letters for various ships, whose delivery to the persons to whom they may be addressed depends upon the mere chance of encountering them in the four oceans. Thus, most letters never reach their mark, and many are only received after retaining an age of 2 or 3 years or more. Starbuck returned with a letter in his hand. It was sorely tumbled damp and covered with a spotted green mold, in consequence of being kept in the dark locker of the cabin. Of such a letter, Death himself might well have been the postboy. "Canst thou not read it?" cried Ahab. "Give it me, man." But it's a dim scrawl. What's this?" As he was studying it out, Starbuck took a long cutting spade pole, and with his knife, slightly split the end to insert the letter there, and in that way hand it to the boat without its coming closer to the ship. Meanwhile, Ahab, holding the letter, muttered, Mr. Harry, a woman's pinny hand, the man's wife, I'll wager. Mr. Harry Macy, Ship Jeroboam. Why, it's Macy. And he's dead. Poor fella, and from his wife, sighed Mayhew. But let me have it.
Nay, keep it thyself, cried Gabriel to Ahab. Thou art soon going that way.
Curse his throttle, yelled Ahab. Captain Mayhew, stand by now to receive it. And taking the fatal missive from Starbuck's hands, he caught it in the slit of the pole and reached it over toward the boat. But as he did so, the oarsman expectantly desisted from rowing. The boat drifted a little toward the ship's stern, so that, as if by magic, the letter suddenly ranged along with Gabriel's eager hand. He clutched it in an instant, seized the boat knife, and impaling the letter on it, sent it thus loaded back onto the ship. It fell at Ahab's feet. Then Gabriel shrieked out to his comrades to give way with their oars, and in that manner the mutinous boat rapidly shot away from the Pequod. As, after this interlude, the seamen resumed their work upon the jacket of the whale, many strange things were hinted in reference to this wild affair. So that concludes Chapter 71 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. And we are an hour into the stream, so it's a good time to mention that tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Why is that not copy and pasted? I believe in me. We are currently, just for reference, $20 away from our next face camera expansion milestone by my abacus count here. Okay, so any thoughts on the Jeroboam, the Archangel Gabriel, beleaguered Captain Mayhew, or the lost man, Harry Macy? I like these little interludes with the other ships. It is interesting seeing... So, you know, if what we're supposed to be seeing here is Ishmael's tale of being on a dysfunctional whaleboat, I find it interesting that out of every other boat they meet, they've got some sort of crazy story about another dysfunctional whaleboat. And in some ways, that kind of lends credulity to Ahab's whole thing, where he's basically commandeered the ship that he's part owner of from the other owners to fuel his own vendetta. Like, this far out from home, all of these whale ships are on these 2 to 3 year voyages. So you might say, wait, how do they go for 2 or 3 years, or why do they go for 2 or 3 years? Well, so all of the butchering of the whale that they're doing, they're boiling down the parts of the whale into barrels to make the stuff that's actually valuable. So rather than bringing home a bunch of blubber, which would fill their hold after killing one whale, they're processing the whole whale right now on the ship. And each whale might fill a few barrels in the hold of valuable, like, candle oil or whatever. Not candle. I think the sperm whale's brain is what has the stuff they make candles out of, and then the rest of it is whale oil from the blubber, right? So they can go months chasing whales and only partially fill the hold. And for the voyage to be economical, they really need to fill the hold. But they can't spend 100% of their time actually hunting, because actually butchering the whales and stuff does take time. They can't butcher... They don't have the tackles, or the ship doesn't have the strength. They would collapse if they tried to, like, butcher 2 whales at once. They can only have 1 whale alongside at a time. So they spend a lot of time just getting to where the whales are and chasing where the whales go, because the whales are also migrating over time. So they're kind of following the whales' migration patterns, getting news from other ships, and then they're butchering the whales. It's a whole thing. But yeah, so they're away from home for a long time. They spend a lot of time surrounded by blood. Vijurist writes, this interaction felt filled with uncontrollable forward motion. Yeah. The way Gabriel would respond every time he interrupted, and the conversation would then continue. Yeah, it was nice that the captain felt comfortable, like, describing all of this stuff about how Gabriel took over the ship directly in front of him. It's like, yeah, and this guy over here totally turned my whole ship into a cult boat, but, you know, what can you do? We still got a year left in the voyage. The hold's not full. Like, the fact that, like, nobody was like, oh, hey, do you need us to deal with your cult problem? Like, it's just like, it's just one of those things where, in the same way that, they said, like, you know, it's hard to recognize, or like, every sailor has a unique look about him. That's the only thing they have in common, right? It sounds like every whaleboat has a unique insanity. At least, so Eric Chieftain says, they still hunt whales in Norway. I'm going to assume that modern whaling ships are a little less gestures vaguely at, the story. I'm going to assume things have changed in the last 175 years, at least a little bit. So I'm not sure that and even your grandfather would have only been like 75 years ago. Whereas this novel takes place a while back. Centauratron says, if I've learned anything from Joe Hill's streams, it's that cults are bad. Hey, that's something. That's a valuable lesson. I'm glad you're picking up on that. Welcome, Vero86. Slazman says 2 years of whale stuff. That seems like a lot of whale. 2 to 3 years. So the voyage goes until the holds are full. If they have to go back and they don't have the ship, like, bursting with whale oil, then the ship basically is going to take a loss. Like, basically, they don't need to just, like, break even. Because the thing is, a lot of the people who have part ownership in these boats are, like, the widows of sailors, or, like, shares of these boats would be owned by, like, the local schools as part of their funding, right? Like, the community is operating, like, they can't come back and say, well, we made all the money back that you spent on getting us here. They need to actually bring back a profit in order to, like, fund the city. Like, the town runs on this. And so it's better for them to stay out a few months longer than to show up short. Slazman says, seems like a bad economy. John Ringwater says, it's a co-op. Yeah, but so basically, the boats don't get to come home until they're full. Which, when you have people who are, you know, going crazy from being at sea too long all the time, there's a mental health downside here that we're seeing to this method. But it's one of those things, well, what if you just made smaller ships so that they could fill up faster and didn't need as many crew? Well, the thing is, they're already making the smallest ships they can that can reliably haul up a whale for butchering. Like, if they made the ships any smaller, they wouldn't have the crew or the equipment on board to actually process the whale. Like, it's a whole thing. Like, where it's just like, to make a ship big enough to pick up a whale, you end up in a situation where the hold can hold 3 years worth of whale oil. Maybe 2 if it's a really good 2 years. But nobody's coming back in a year and a half. Nobody's coming home in a year and a half from a whaling voyage like this. Red Velvet Rabbit says, how is this a better discussion than what I had in high school English? Was your English teacher paid in tips? Tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. I'm motivated to make sure that this is actually something engaging. I'm not motivated enough to pick a different book. I'm still reading Moby Dick to you guys because I'm self-indulgent to a fault, and I really wanted to read Moby Dick. But I'm doing my best to not make that your problem. So, okay. Trubaka agrees that cults are bad. Thank you, Trubaka. Victoria says, so if you don't bring back enough whale, it's not worth the voyage. Exactly. And so, but basically everybody on board the ship gets paid a small percentage of the ship's profits, too. So nobody wants to spend a year and a half of their life and come back home and go, well, we broke even. So I guess I got free rent and food for a year and a half. And now I'm literally completely broke and can't afford a hotel or an inn. I'm, you know, especially what some of these guys, you know, might have families back home. Especially the mates. Usually the officers would have families back in Nantucket, right? So, you know, what are their families? Their families still need food, right? Mighty Mo says, if the town needs the ships for funding, why hunt whales? Wouldn't it be easier to farm or mine? Well, Nantucket is a little island where you can't farm or mine. It's basically the town itself doesn't have any natural resources. Like, the way they describe it is they can barely grow grass there. So they're having to bring in food from elsewhere. You know, like, it's a whole thing. I think we need to go trade for some trade some emeralds for some food. But yeah, basically there is the town has no economy other than shipping, than whaling, and you know, there's some fishermen or whatever, but like, if they want to keep the town solvent, these ships need to go out, and they need to come back full. Jonas says, hey, like your vids. Thank you. Yeah, we're talking about Nantucket in particular. Both of the ships that we've dealt with so far in the story that have had, like, weird problems were whaling ships out of Nantucket. Okay. Okay, we're getting plenty of farmers here. Pumpkin pie. That's yummy. Very, very autumnal, too. Hey, where was the pumpkin pie guy? Is he going to bed? Are you the pumpkin pie guy? Pies. should probably go to bed too. Slater Boy 41 says, "Love your work, Joe. Just catching you for a few minutes before work today." Hey, we'll have a good time at work. Jonas says, "What are you doing?" We are reading Moby Dick while clearing land. Here's what we're building, Link. We are building a scale model of Bell Laboratories Research and Development Campus designed by Finnish-American architect Eero Saarinen back in the 1960s. It was, when it was constructed, the largest mirrored glass building in the world. It was a 1/4 mile long. It's got these crazy ovoid roads around it. You can see there. We might need to get into the sky. Let's do a quick overview, because some people might not have seen what we're working on. So this oval here, these oval roads have a major diameter of 900 meters, a minor diameter of 600 meters. That's the skinny part of the oval. Once again, this building, 1/4 mile long, made of mirrored glass. Because you can't mirror glass properly in Minecraft, I'm using packed ice, because the real building basically reflects the sky most of the time if you're looking at it from the ground, and the sky is about the color of packed ice. So, is there a Halloween district this year? I don't know. Things are kind of all over the place this year. We are kind of just, yeah. We're about as organized as usual. The problem is, it's really hard to plan anything over the summer. And then it's really hard to plan anything when school's starting, because a bunch of the parents have kids. Most of the parents on Hermitcraft have children. So I have not heard the song Time Skips. Or Time Skiffs. That's a cool name, Time Skiffs. Like boats for time. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wait to read the next chapter until the next stream. So well, I'm looking at it I'm trying to figure out. So have I shown where I was planning to put the nether portal? Yeah, the nether portal is going to go in the front parking lot, directly under there. That portal right there. This is where the nether portal is going to go, just down there. If we go to the nether real quick. So here is, so we've got the two pools here. We've got this spray pool, which we've already got in. And then there's another pool going in here. And then there's a parking lot. And in this pool here, there's a flagpole. And this portal is going to go on the flagpole island in this pool. And then the front entrance is there. But yeah, we've got a 1/8 scale model here where all of these portals correspond with, so like the portal over here on that part is going to correspond with where the water tower is going to go, right? So this represents the water tower here. Have I figured out where the mailbox is going to be? Yes, the mailbox is going to be in this building. I actually sent Pearl mail in-game and via Discord. That's going to be our mailbox. And this portal is also next to it, which is very convenient. So our mailbox is going to go here. Okay. You know, I think this next chapter will do now. So yeah, I was trying to figure out. Yeah, okay. I've done a quick reading of it. I think we'll do this one. It's not too long. So this next chapter is about the mechanism by which a harpooner is secured to the larger whaling vessel during certain stages of the butchering process that require the harpooner to stand on the whale's back while it is brought alongside, or while it is held alongside. So, let's go ahead. So one thing I will note is that there's definitely some overall themes in this novel that are relatively progressive. Melville goes out of his way to have Ishmael point out that, like, one of the best things about whaling is that you get to serve with people from all over the world, and even though his white Protestant brethren might think they're all savages and devils and heathens, they're actually pretty great. So it's, basically our equals, which is pretty progressive for the time. At the same time, though, some of the language he uses isn't always very progressive, partially because this is Ishmael making the case to people who don't necessarily share his beliefs, and also because that language is dated. So there are going to be cases where, when talking about Queequeg, the African harpooner, I might change some of the words as I'm reading them aloud. But that's just one of those things. I think that overall, the intentions of the author are good here. And I think this work still has relevance, even though some aspects of it may be particularly dated. But yeah, I did want to just mention that going into this next bit. The fact that the mechanism that the harpooner is attached to is called a monkey rope is arguably intrinsically racist. The name of the chapter is The Monkey Rope. A lot of the harpooneers were not white. Not all of them were black, but it's not a great name for that. However, I feel like that's not a term that I can change in situation. Okay, don't put my username. Don't put my name in your username on Twitch. That's gonna get you banned. That's unnecessarily confusing. You need your own identity. We're reading a book about why cults are bad. Don't show up and be like, I like you so much, my YouTube username is your YouTube username. That's not good. Okay. But yeah, anyway. So the term used in the title of this chapter and throughout this chapter is really not acceptable. But it's... but, like I said, it's kind of one of those things where it's like we either skip the whole chapter or we just kind of acknowledge that and continue on. Because, like I said, I don't think that the character of Ishmael is coming at this from a racist standpoint. Once again, I think he's actually generally an advocate for non-Christians and non-white people throughout the story. And I think Melville is, making a genuine attempt toward arguing for equality throughout the book. But if he's using sailing terms that are, at the time, racist, that's, just something we should be aware of. And not necessarily a good... Don't see the sailing term the monkey rope and be like, oh boy, I can't wait to use that as a term in something I'm working on, because I'm gonna strongly discourage you from that. This is not emulatable behavior. Or it is, this is behavior that could be emulated, but should not be, let's just say. Okay, so I think that's probably as much as I can, it's not equivocating, as much as I can prepare for that. Yeah, stuff like this gets complicated when you're reading books from 175 years ago. But, you know, it's the cost of engaging with the past sometimes. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and continue with Chapter 72. I haven't posted the link. Yeah, let me post the link to what we're reading and update the pins, and then we'll get started. Just as a reminder, though, this is a viewer-supported stream. Rampage says link is pinned in the chat. Yeah, that's to the previous chapter. We have to update the link each time to the new chapter so people coming in can find the right chapter. Okay. So, yeah. Once again, the unfortunately named Chapter 72, The Monkey Rope. In the tumultuous business of cutting in and attending to a whale, there is much running backwards and forwards among the crew. Now the hands are wanted here, and then again the hands are wanted there. There is no staying in any one place, for at one and the same time everything has to be done everywhere. It is much the same with him who endeavors the description of the scene. We must now retrace our way a little. It was mentioned that upon first breaking ground on the whale's back, the blubber hook was inserted into the original hole there cut by the spades of the mates. But how did so clumsy and weighty a mass as that same hook get fixed in that hole? It was inserted there by my particular friend Queequeg, whose duty it was, as harpooner, to descend upon the monster's back for that special purpose referred to. But in very many cases, circumstances require that the harpooner shall remain on the whale till the whole flensing or stripping operation is concluded. The whale, be it observed, lies almost... Oh, why am I having such a hard time reading this? Give me a second. Every time I'm hitting a new line, I'm losing my place. Take a sip of water and go ahead. Give it a go. All right. The whale, be it observed, lies almost entirely submerged, excepting the immediate parts operated upon. So, down there, some 10 feet below the level of the deck, the poor harpooner flounders about, half on the whale and half in the water, as the vast mass revolves around like a treadmill beneath him. On the occasion in question, Queequeg figured in the Highland costume, a shirt and socks, in which, to my eyes, he at least appeared to uncommon advantage, and no one had a better chance to observe him, as will presently be seen. Being the harpooner's bowsman, that is the person who pulled the bow oar in his boat, being the harpooner's bowsman, that is the person who pulled the bow oar in his boat, the second one from forward, it was my cheerful duty to attend upon him while taking that hard gravel scramble upon the dead whale's back. You have seen Italian organ boys holding a dancing monkey by a long cord. Just so, from the ship's steep side, did I hold Queequeg down there in the sea, by what is technically called in the fishery a monkey rope, attached to a long strip of canvas belted round his waist. It was a humorously perilous business for both of us, for, before we proceed further, it must be said that the monkey rope was fast at both ends, fast to Queequeg's broad canvas belt, and fast to my narrow leather one. So that for better or worse, we two, for the time, were wedded. And should poor Queequeg sink and rise no more, then both usage and honor demanded that instead of cutting the cord, it should drag me down in his wake. So then, in an elongated Siamese ligature, united were we. Queequeg was my own inseparable twin brother, nor could I in any way get rid of the dangerous liabilities which the hempen bond entailed. So strongly and metaphysically did I conceive of my situation then, that while earnestly watching his motions, I seemed distinctly to perceive that my own individuality was now merged in a joint stock company of two, that my free will had received a mortal wound, and that another's mistake or misfortune might plunge innocent me into unmerited disaster and death. Therefore, I saw that here was a sort of interregnum in Providence, for its even-handed equity could never have so gross an injustice. And yet, still further pondering, while I jerked him now and then from between the whale and the ship, which would threaten to jam him, still further pondering, I say, I saw that this situation of mine was the precise situation of every mortal that breathes, only in most cases, he, one way or the other, has this Siamese connection with a plurality of other mortals. If your banker breaks, you snap. If your apothecary by mistake sends you poison in your pills, you die. True, you may say that by exceeding caution, you may possibly escape these and multitudinous other evil chances of life, but handle Queequeg's monkey rope as heedfully as I would, sometimes he jerked it so that I came very near sliding overboard. Nor could I possibly forget that, do what would, I had only the management of one end of it. The monkey rope is found in all whalers, but it is only in the Pequod that the monkey and his holder were ever tied together. This improvement upon the original usage was introduced by no less a man than Stubb, in order to afford the imperiled harpooner the strongest possible guarantee for the faithfulness and vigilance of his monkey rope holder. I have hinted that I would often jerk poor Queequeg from between the whale and his ship, where he would occasionally fall from the incessant rolling and swaying of both. But this was not the only jamming jeopardy he was exposed to. Unappalled by the massacre made upon them during the night, the sharks, now freshly and more keenly allured by the pent blood which began to flow from the carcass, the rabid creatures swarmed round it like bees in a beehive. And right in among those sharks was Queequeg, who often pushed them aside with his floundering feet, a thing altogether incredible, were it not that, attracted by such prey as a dead whale, the otherwise miscellaneously carnivorous shark will seldom touch a man. Nevertheless, it may well be believed that since they have such a ravenous finger in the pie, it is deemed but wise to look sharp among them. Accordingly, besides the monkey rope, which I would now and then, with which I now and then, one second, let me just inventory manage real quick. And let's take a second to thank our latest tipper as well, since I'm already out of the rhythm. Yeah. Thank you very much to Denny for tipping one, who says, you said Euro-friendly time? So I wanted to see if a euro would make it to you. Well, that euro has been winnowed down to $1 by PayPal transaction fees, but I did indeed receive it. Thank you so much, Denny. It puts us now 19 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Yeah, this seems wildly dangerous. I mean, all the parts of whaling seem wildly dangerous, but this particular business, not great. Okay, wow, we're down to our second to last pickaxe, too. Okay. quickly tossing that back there. Okay, so let's get back to it. Accordingly, besides the monkey rope, with which I now and then jerked the poor fellow from too close a vicinity to the maw of what seemed a peculiarly ferocious shark, he was provided with still another protection. Suspended over the side in one of the stages, Tashtego and Dagu continuously flourished over his head, a couple of keen whale spades, wherewith they slaughtered as many sharks as they could reach. This procedure of theirs, to be sure, was very disinterested and benevolent of them. They meant Queequeg's best happiness, I admit, but in their hasty zeal to befriend him, and from circumstance that both he and the sharks were at times half hidden by the blood-muddled water, those indiscreet spades of theirs would come nearer amputating a leg than a tail. But poor Queequeg, I suppose, straining and gasping there with that great iron hook, poor Queequeg, I suppose, only prayed to his Yojo and gave up his life into the hands of the gods. Well, well, my dear comrade and twin brother, thought I, as I drew it and then slacked off the rope to every swell of the sea. What matters it, after all? Are you not the precious image of each and all of us men in the whaling world? That unsounded ocean you gasp in is life. Those sharks are your foes, these spades your friends, and what between sharks and spades you are, in a sad pickle and peril, poor lad. But courage, there is great cheer in store for you, Queequeg, for now, as with blue lips and bloodshot eyes, the exhausted harpooneer at last climbs up the chains and stands all dripping and involuntarily trembling over the side, the steward advances, and, with a benevolent, consolatory glance, hands him, what? Some hot cognac? No! Hands him, ye gods, hands him a cup of tepid ginger and water. Ginger. Do I smell ginger? Suspiciously asked Dub, coming near. Yes, this must be ginger. Peering into the yet untasted cup. Then, standing, as if incredulous for a while, he calmly walked toward the astonished steward, slowly saying, Ginger, ginger. And will ye have the goodness to tell me, Mr. Doughboy, where lies the virtue of ginger? Ginger. Is ginger the sort of fuel you use to kindle a fire in this shivering harpooneer? Ginger. What the devil is ginger? Sea coal, firewood, lucifer, matches, tinder, gunpowder. What the devil is ginger? I say that you offer this cup to our poor Queequeg here. There is some sneaking temperance society movement about this business, he suddenly added, and now approaching Starbuck, who had just come forward. Will you look at that Kannakin, sir? Smell of it, if you please. Then, watching the mate's countenance, he added, The steward, Mr. Starbuck, had the face to offer that calomel and jalap to Queequeg there, this instant off the whale. Is the steward an apothecary, sir? And may I ask whether this is the sort of bitters by which he blows back the life into a half drowned man. I trust not, said Starbuck. It is poor stuff enough. Aye, steward, cried Stubb. We'll teach you to drug a harpooner. None of your apothecary's medicine here. Do you want to poison us, do you? You've got our insurances out on our lives, and you want to murder us all, and pocket the proceeds, do you? It wasn't me, cried Doughboy. It was Aunt Charity that brought the ginger on board, and bade me never give the harpooneers any spirits, but only this ginger jub, as she called it. Ginger jub, you gingerly rascal, take that and run along with ye to the lockers and get something better. I hope I do no wrong, Mr. Starbuck. It is the captain's orders. Grog for the harpooner on the whale. Enough, replied Starbuck. Only don't hit him again, but... Oh, I never hurt when I hit, except when I hit a whale or something of that sort. And this fellow's a weasel. What were you saying, sir? Only this. Go down with him, and get what thou wantest thyself. When Stubb reappeared, he came with a dark flask in one hand, and a sort of tea caddy in another. The first contained strong spirits, which he handed to Queequeg. The second was Aunt Charity's gift, and that was freely given to the waves. And that concludes chapter 73 of chapter 72 of Moby Dick, or The Whale, by Herman Melville. Yeah, that sounds pretty miserable. Freezing half to death in the ocean, having to run along. So because they're spiralized cutting the blubber off the whale. The whale is rotating while Queequeg is working on it. Not necessarily, it's not like spinning like super fast, but the whale is continuously spinning while Queequeg is trying to get this second hook in. So he's got to like work on the back of a moving thing that's partially submerged. He's knee-deep in water himself half the time. There's sharks everywhere. There's guys with spears trying to kill the sharks right next to you. Because, like, they don't want to, no sense killing the sharks that are nowhere near Queequeg. The ones that are near him are the ones that are concerned. And then those ones will be dead and be food for the ones further out. It's just like, oh my gosh, this whole thing is just a mess. And then you're expecting hot cognac, a warm alcoholic drink as your reward for this. And they bring you lukewarm ginger tea. Oh boy. See, this is actually, Stubbs standing up for the men here. This is one of those things where it's like, because Aunt Charity is like one of the owners of the ship. She has some shares in the ship or whatever. And she wants the steward to not bring alcohol to the harpooneers because of the temperance movement. And it's like, no, it's the mate's job on the ground to make sure that the owners aren't setting standing orders without telling people to the detriment of the rest of the crew. Shinlu says, hello, I am a friendly Euro. Hello, Shinlu. Welcome to our Saturday afternoon here in Tennessee, but Saturday early evening stream for you out European ways. Yeah, cognac. Vigorous, that's the word. Does anybody have any thoughts on this chapter? On, like, this is legitimately an ordeal. I feel bad for Queequeg but there's probably not any other really better way to do any of this. Like, it would be impossible to do this on, like, you know, you could try lowering a platform from the ship, but, like, you really have to be on the whale. And it's not like they could mount a platform to the whale, because the whale is rotating. Like, and any sort of platform like that, you'd have to build it and store it and upkeep it. Oh boy, it's just hard work, this sort of thing. Gotta get those boots on the whale. Exactly. I mean, I think they said he was barefoot, but, or no, he had socks on. But yeah, boots on the whale. Matt Limbago says, I know I'd be so mad if I wasn't given my cognac for standing knee-deep in the water among blood and blubber. I want to point out, too, that Queequeg does not throw a fit. He doesn't, like, every time something happens, like, stupid at Queequeg's expense, he's very chill about it. You know, like, it's just really one of those things where, like, it's good that Stubb came along to deal with this, because Queequeg, half frozen, you know, because they talk about, like, his blue lips and stuff, he would have just probably, like, gone to lie down. He wouldn't have stood up for himself in this case, you know, because, you know, in cases, there have been other cases where he has stood up for himself, but he was good-spirited about it. He never, like, let stuff get to him. Welcome, Doc M77 Raiders. Howdy, y'all. Joe Hills here, recording as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee. Hope y'all had a great time talking with Doc. I was actually watching a little bit of his stream before I got started while I was busting some rocks. I enjoyed hearing about the good old days on the Mindcrack server. Good was an incredible person who contributed so much to the creation of the concept of the SMP, and who was just an amazing innovator and a great friend in so many ways. But yeah, I really enjoyed, I heard Good talking, or not Good, I heard Doc talking a little bit about Good and the history of Mindcrack, some of the Minecraft charity stuff back in the day. I did not hear a story about piercing, but that's okay. That's okay. I know Good's still alive. I know, sorry, I wasn't talking about him in the past tense. I was talking about, like, how he pulled so many people together. He made so many things happen in the Minecraft community early on in ways that other people just weren't ready to, you know? There's a lot of people doing great work in the Minecraft community today, but a lot of them, whether they met him or know it or not, are following Good's lead. So, yeah, I wish Good the best in his future endeavors. But yeah, I was not trying to imply by speaking in the past tense that Good was not alive. I was just saying that he was a trailblazer in the early days of Minecraft. And we're not in the early days of Minecraft anymore. Hence, or maybe we are. Maybe 300 years of Minecraft. We'll see. People might refer to this as, oh yeah, this was the first century of the Minecraft era. We'll outlive the Roman Empire. Let's go. But yeah, thank you so much, Doc, for the raid. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend. But yeah, we were just enjoying, I've been reading. So one of my Saturday traditions here on the stream, this started off slow. One of my Saturday traditions on the stream is that I would read poems and short stories while I was doing really grindy stuff in Minecraft. Like, I would have huge projects, and I'd be like, okay, we're going to schedule all of the really grindy stuff for Saturday night. So that way the people who have to go out have to, or get to, people who are like, oh, I can't watch the stream like I usually would because I'm going out on Saturday. That's okay. You're not going to miss much because I'm going to do my grindiest stuff on Saturday night, and then we'll do the exciting stuff with that materials throughout the week, right? And for the people who are staying in, well, that's okay. You know, I'll read some poems, I'll do some short stories, we'll have a drink or two and hang out. You know, be a nice chill Saturday night stream. And that evolved over time. Last season, I started reading Dracula on one of those streams, and I realized that like the skills that allowed me to read 3 chats as I was doing my stream, actually I could read an entire novel while playing Minecraft, as long as what I'm doing is grindy enough. You know, I couldn't do anything like play Frogger or complex mini games. I couldn't design redstone. But for something like this, where, oh, let me check my Minecraft statistics real quick. I've removed 2.29 million stone. Asuma actually gave me a trophy for 1 million stone. I decided not to ask for a trophy for 2 million. I think I'm going to ask for a 3.14159 million stone trophy, so we can have a pi million stone trophy. But you might say, like, oh, actually, let me backtrack a little. The grindy thing we're working on, what we're building here, is about halfway between docks area and spawn. We're out by B-dubs here. This is Bell Laboratories Research and Development Campus. This is based on a real place. I've posted a link to a Library of Congress hosted, survey of the original. The original Bell Laboratories Research and Development Campus in Holmdel, New Jersey, was designed by Finnish-American architect Eero Saarinen. And as you can see, it's got these ovoid roads around it with a major diameter of 900 blocks, a minor diameter of 600 blocks. The building in the center is a quarter-mile long. When it was built, it was the largest mirrored glass building in the world. Because we can't make mirrored glass in Minecraft, I've used packed ice. We've got our whole little packed ice harvesting facility over there. If we go out far enough that way, we're going to hit docks area. But we're not going to fly all the way out there right now. B-dubs is out this way. But yeah, so this is a pretty big area. There's what's left of Doc's Flood down there. We put some of that in one of these little hot dog containment zones. Cub's Labyrinth is there. This right here had a bunch of mountains in the way, but we are delivering those to Etho by way of the Popo impound. So if you haven't seen Etho's videos this season, I strongly recommend checking him out. Doc was talking about Etho from the good old days. Well, he's still about making fun stuff. And one of the things he made was a pop-up shop where I could drop off stone for him from this project. Etho has an exclusive contract for all the stone that I mine on this project. And the Popo made the mistake of confiscating the pop-up shop with the delivery zone for that stone. And so in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I have now put about 1.5 million stone in the Popo lockup. If you want to see my video of that, all the stone for the Popo. I'm going to just link that here. You guys can bookmark that for later or go watch it now if you'd rather watch a video. I'm really proud of the editing in that video. I did some really cool stuff editing. My last 3 videos, I've been really trying to up my editing game. Because my streams are a lot more like chill and hangout-like. Because my streams are a lot more chill and hangout-like, I want the videos to have a very different, more frenetic and visual vibe. Like, the streams are designed so you could listen to them while you're doing other stuff, but the episodes are supposed to be like a full focus experience, at least some of the time. Sometimes I do interviews with developers and stuff. Like I had a 75-minute interview with a game developer named Joe Mirabello, who did Battle Train, Mother Gunship, and Tower of Guns. Like that 75-minute interview episode isn't going to be fully visually immersive, but like most of the episodes are. Episodes like that are actually kind of a preview of what the streams are like for people who don't normally watch the streams. Extrema88 says, I love the editing in that video. The sound effects made it so much funnier. It was very funny. Open Yeo says, I already watched that video when it came out, but I'll play it once more on the side just for the algorithm. No, you don't do that. Don't game the algorithm for me. My videos are for people to watch, not for algorithms. I don't want to build a business around algorithm gaming. I want to build a business around being a good artist. Right? So, yeah. So this has been a really roundabout way to express to the folks who just came in that, the reason that it says Moby Dick in the title of this stream is that we have literally read 3 chapters of Moby Dick this afternoon. We are reading through that bit by bit, and that's been a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. We did Dracula last season, which was a huge hit, and I'm trying to pick books that are better than people give them credit for, but that are also kind of hard to read on your own. Like, some books are actually better out loud. Not every book, but some books, there's, like, the sentences in Moby Dick, there's a lot of run-on sentences. Run-on. Oh my god, I'm talking like my aunt. Okay, there's a lot of run-on sentences. I'm all over the place with my accent now. There's a lot of run-on sentences in Moby Dick that make it hard to read. And so having somebody say it out loud with the proper pauses and things like that really adds a lot to the intelligibility of the novel. Dracula has some bits, too, where it's just like, yeah, this is just better out loud. Say Baby says The Martian was much better as an audiobook than reading it. Yeah, The Martian, because it's written in the first-person perspective, it really sounds like the guy telling you his own story. And so that's the other thing, is Dracula and Moby Dick are also both written in the first-person perspective. And so having that first-person narration audible from me is a big benefit, I think. So, let's see. If anybody's enjoying the stream, just as a reminder, this is a viewer-supported stream. If you want to show the doc raters how the camera gets bigger, we are currently $19 away from our next face camera expansion milestone. And tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Let's see. Bespectacle Gwen says Les Mis is another book like along those lines. JD Whitworth says, you gotta hit him with Where the Red Fern Grows. Let's see. Hell for Games says, have you seen the Shakespeare musical Something Rotten? You seem like a theater kid, Joe. I like seeing theater live, but I don't love recordings of it as much. And so a lot of times people will be like, Joe, have you seen this musical? And I'll be like, well, it hasn't come to Nashville yet. Or when it came to Nashville, I couldn't afford it. And they're like, well, have you listened to the album? And I was like, no, I'm waiting for it to come back to Nashville on a week I can afford it. Because it's like, I've gotten to see Rent here. I've gotten to see Wicked. I've gotten to see Hamilton. Hamilton was great. We had seats all the way in the back at the top, because that was my daughter's Christmas present that year. And even with using my entire budget for her Christmas toward her ticket and my entire budget for myself toward Christmas toward my ticket, we still got seats all the way in the back at the top. And we went with a few friends who probably could have afforded better seats, but were polite and got cheap tickets back with us. And at the very end, when the actor on stage points up, people familiar with Hamilton will know what I'm talking about. But there's a part where the actor points upward into the audience. She pointed directly at me. And the friend who's sitting 2 seats over just turns and goes, Joe, she pointed directly at you. This is your responsibility now. And I'm like, thanks, I got enough on my plate. But it was kind of cool. I wasn't expecting that. So that was something fun about those seats. But yeah, my daughter loved it. That was the last real outing we got at the end of 2019 before the lockdown hit, too. And so I was really glad that we had done it, even though it was kind of pricey. But yeah, theater is just, one of those things where I'm
I mean, the best way to see more shows would probably be to get a job there. I don't know. Lavender Spirit says, sounds like pretty good seats actually because of all the movement around the stage. Yeah, we could see. We had a great ability to like look down and see all the dancing and the turntable and everything. Hey, we got a tip rolling in. Let's see who it's from. Elodie. Thank you, Elodie, for tipping 20. Who says, Elodie here. I can't stick around today. I'm moving house and have a lot to do. I hope you have a good stream. Well, thank you so much, Elodie. That puts us one past our next face camera expansion milestone. So here we go. It's time to expand. Hi, Doc fans. Oh, boy. Thank you very much, Elodie. 3 rating with the Doc stream. You're an exemplary raider, Elodie. Thank you. Good luck with moving house. I know that's always a lot of work. But yeah, I'm glad you got a chance to hang out for a little bit. But yeah, I really, one of my favorite Shakespeare things I've seen recently was Goblin Macbeth. Which actually included one of the writers and actors in Goblin Macbeth is actually blind, which was really interesting seeing him perform on stage in person, especially in a show that involves a lot of audience interaction, where he's like handing things to the audience and picking and accepting things back from them, and it's like, wow, like he, you know, like clearly, like, just very cool. But yeah, so he's actually the actor who plays the Andorian on Star Trek, was Discovery? No, it's Strange New Worlds. Who's the Andorian on Strange New Worlds? Hemmer, played by Canadian actor Bruce Horak. Yeah. So, so Bruce Horak is really cool. And yeah, I got to see him perform Goblin Macbeth with 2 other people. Goblin Macbeth is really cool because basically the idea is that these goblins come. There's 3 goblins, and they're like, you know, everybody accuses goblins of being uncivilized and you know, not having a culture. But you know what? We're just as good at culture as you. You know, we try to perform our culture for you, but you don't respect it. Nobody respects goblin culture. So just to show that we're capable of demonstrating and appreciating culture, we're going to do some of your culture for you in a way you would understand. Okay? We got this book here called Macbeth by William Shakespeare, and the 3 of us are going to do Macbeth. And so it's a 3-man Macbeth show where one of the 3 people only plays one role. The other 2 play every other role. But the 3rd guy has a table full of musical instruments. Notably, the 3rd guy is not Bruce Horak. Bruce Horak is one of the people playing playing half the characters. But a different guy who can see is at a table full of musical instruments and random objects for most of the play. And he is actively doing all of the sound effects, like live Foley work and music. He's incredibly musically gifted. But let me see if I can get a link to Goblin Macbeth to see if they're performing it anywhere else anytime soon. No, not Goblin Mac and Cheese. Google, come on. Yeah, because we saw it at the Stratford Festival. But the name of the company that does it, is it Bard on the Beach? But yeah, we saw it in October of 2023. Okay, yeah, it had Rebecca Northen, Bruce Horak, and I don't know if it has the name of the 3rd guy in here. Does it have the 3rd guy? Ellis Lalonde is the 3rd goblin. It was amazing, though. Do they have any upcoming shows of this? Is this the sort of... oh, hey, it's playing right now with the same people in Tarragon Main Space. I don't know where Tarragon Theater is, but let's find out. Because if any of you guys are looking for something awesome to go see, I really cannot recommend Goblin Macbeth enough. Is there like an address at the bottom of this? It's in Tarragon Theater is in Toronto, Ontario. Okay. Yeah, so anybody in Canada or who has plans to go to Ontario between now and October 27th, I really hope you get a chance to see Goblin Macbeth. It's amazing. Terra Glow says, cool, my hometown. LED3 says, what? LED, are you somewhere that you can get to Toronto? Because if you could get to Toronto, I am not joking. This is one of those amazing stage experiences. They have a ton of audience interaction throughout the play. There's so many great bits. I really cannot say enough good things about it. You may or may not be within travel distance of Toronto. Well, I don't want to dox you, but yeah, if you have the ability to get to Toronto before the end of October. Emmett Ultraviolet in the YouTube chat says, hey, Joe, happy for a Euro-friendly time. Happy Euro-friendly time to fellow Euros. And Franz de Boer says, hey, Joe, greetings from the Netherlands in the YouTube chat. Howdy, Franz. Yeah, we were just talking about Shakespeare stuff that I enjoyed. Yeah, because, cannot say enough good things. When we went up there, we originally wanted to go see, we went to Stratford in particular to see Lear with, the guy from Slings and Arrows. What's his name? I'm blanking on his name. Paul Gross. Yeah, we saw Paul Gross. We went to Stratford, Canada to see Paul Gross play Lear. And I was like, oh, while we're here, we should see if they have any other shows playing. And yeah, they had Goblin Macbeth. So we were there for a couple days. We saw both. Amazing time. If you get the chance to see Paul Gross on stage, really recommend it. I loved him in the Canadian show Slings and Arrows. But yeah, it's, I don't know. I wish I could get to the theater more. I really need to make that a better priority. I've been, like, that's one of those things where I was like, after the wedding. Because I felt bad, like, spending money going out by myself to stuff while we were waiting for Badger to get the immigration approval and all that. But now that Badger's here, we can actually go together. Big Papa House writes, PayPal didn't let me add a message for some reason, but late congrats on the wedding. Hey, thank you. Let me go ahead, and I'm going to find a place to lay my head down and dream in-game, and then I'll go check PayPal real quick for that. Da-da-da-da. Hey, thank you very much to Michael Tippin20. Presumably that's the same person. So thank you so much. That's going to get us one past our next face camera expansion milestone. So here we go. It's time to expand Joe. Do-do-do-do. So, yeah, if anybody coming in from the doc raid hasn't seen the wedding pictures yet, I've got those at joehills.net/justmarried. I've also got a whole episode where I talk about the wedding and the honeymoon, and I also have like a 7-minute animated interlude, because one of the things we did on the honeymoon was that we saw the movie Longlegs, which is a horror movie starring Nicolas Cage, and I had 3 video game ideas about how you could make different video games for different consoles based on that film. And so then I animated those video game ideas, which is one of those things that's, you know, really fun, because I'm like, okay, I've already got a 60-minute video talking about the wedding and the honeymoon. And now I'm going to cram in a 7-minute video game pitch thing that I'm hand animating. Well, not hand it. Well, I mean, I was doing it in animation software, but like, I'm like generating the assets in illustration software. I'm drawing the things that I'm then animating in the animation software. I'm animating these from scratch. Let me just throw 7 minutes of that in there inside of a spoiler warning saying, hey, you probably want to skip the part of this video I worked the hardest on if you haven't seen this movie. I make a lot of great artistic choices, you guys. A lot of great artistic choices. But, yeah. I came back from the honeymoon so creatively energized. I just felt like I wanted to animate. So, got some animation done there. Welcome, Topher, showing up in the YouTube chat. Glad you could join us. Hope you are doing well. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, let's go ahead there and pop back out here. But yeah, if anybody else would like to tip, we are $19 now away from the next face camera expansion milestone and the entrance of the Jost. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Okay. So yeah, we are still in process of terraforming this large area out here. We need to put in a lake and an additional yard. The yard I'm not as worried about. The lake I would like to start kind of roughing in. So that might make sense to just kind of pull up and start doing now. Okay. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. So let me pull this up here. That's for a different project. We want the Affinity Designer 2 project. Here we go. So this is the what we're building thing that I posted earlier, except I've scaled and rotated the document to match the Minecraft grid. So that way, any point on my version of the document here, or of this survey, I can just find the coordinates of that point and line it up with where we're going in the Minecraft world. This is not a perfect system, but it's let me kind of like define certain key points and then have stuff line up appropriately. It's going okay. But in particular, what we want to find out is, so we've got 2 lakes in the front, 2 different spray pools. There's the building. You can see the 2 service drives. We're not high enough to really appreciate this right now in game, so we're going to go real quick up here. Fall edition fireworks. It's a visual medium. Izzy Wildstyle says, your pictures from the wedding look nice. Glad you can make the immigration stuff work. Congrats to you and your wife. Thank you so much. Appreciate the kind words. Let's go ahead and land here. Okay. So there's service drive 1. There's service drive 2. You can see the service drives kind of coming out on either side there. Now we need a lake in the middle of this. And arguably, so we do know one point of interest on that lake is that little flagpole island is going to go directly under that portal. So in some ways, mining out everything directly under that portal will let us get that where it needs to go permanently and get the flagpole island in, and so that might be wise to prioritize. We can also prioritize getting in some sort of markers along the outer corners of the lake here, like where's the boundaries of the lake versus the grass and snow, that sort of thing. Because if you open up this in Google Maps, Spellworks, Google Maps, it's going to be fun. Okay. If you open this up in Google Maps, you'll see there is some land on either side, as well as some little railings and fences. There's stuff to do along here. I don't know if I want to do all those little railings because they're going to look weird in Minecraft. But Lavender Spirit says, gotta go now. Happy Thanksgiving to the other Canadians in chat. Oh, is it Canadian Thanksgiving? Awesome. Hope y'all have a fantastic Canadian Thanksgiving. Bum 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 bum. Okay. So let's go ahead then and we need to let's look at this. Let's grab this line here. And we can start putting points on it. Along here. So there's a culvert there. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that this thing is going to actually have, like, a descent to it. Oh, boy. So it's gonna, like, the land is gonna slope down into the pond a little. Okay. Yeah, I think we'll be okay here. Boom, 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 boom. Are there any things to consider with a front row seat for Goblin Macbeth? Elodie asks, would I recommend a front row seat? If you can, yes. If it's available, yes. They don't do anything terrible to the audience. The audience is in on the joke. All of the fun, all of the audience participation stuff I remember, unless they've changed the play since I went, but the stuff I remember was very positive and good, and yeah. If you have small children that you're bringing with you, maybe don't sit right up front, but otherwise, yeah. I would definitely recommend sitting as close as possible. You have 0 small children, yeah. Then definitely, unless, because, the thing is, the actors will, hand you stuff and be like, hold this for me real quick. Just little stuff. Yeah. So, sitting in the front, you might get handed things, so, if that's going to be weird to you, then maybe not, but, it's very fun. You get to feel like you're helping, is what I'm going to say. They give you opportunities to help if you sit up front. They're not just, going to make fun of you. It's not like at a comedy show where they're like, oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, you're unemployed. Sounds exhausting. It's not like that. Because, yeah, when we went to Old Rope Comedy Show in London, Badger explicitly was like, we're not sitting up front. And then I got called on anyway, which I detail in my London travelogue video, where Ed Gamble was disappointed at how much time Rialina spent talking to the man who plays Minecraft for a living. That was a really good trip. But yeah, I really strongly recommend you see Goblin Macbeth if you can. And if you're in London, see Old Rope Comedy Show, organized by one of Badger's old friends. Strongly recommend that as well. Unfortunately, her friend who normally hosts the show was out sick that night, so I didn't get to meet her. But Rialina did a great job as surprise guest host, especially considering I think it was a surprise to Rialina. It's like, hey, can you fill in for me? I'm sick tonight. Okay. But, Rialina is a pro, and it was super entertaining and really fun. Old Rope new material at the Comedy Store. Yeah, here it is. Hosted by Tiff Stevenson. So, yeah, for all the people out in Europe who can't get to Canada to see Goblin Macbeth, if you want something funny, once again, though, the contrast is you will get mocked in the front row of Old Rope new material. Drew Baca says, yes, how often does one get to meet the real Zombie Cleo? I did get to meet Zombie Cleo that trip. That was true. That was a highlight. Unbuckled Spaghetti says, where can I see your video where you talk about your London trip? Cool. Let me find that. It's not a vlog because I couldn't film in London. I didn't have a permit. I didn't have a work permit. So, London, Joe Hills. So the episode's called A Social Visit to London because I was just there to talk to people about I was there to meet all of my fiance's like friends and family. Let me see if I can find this episode. A Social Visit to London, England. So the thing is, basically the entire flight back, I wrote basically I was like, if I did a stand-up comedy special where I talked about my trip to England, what would that be like? And I basically kind of wrote out I thought a pretty funny hour-long overview of my trip. And then I recorded it on Hermitcraft while I moved some trees around. La 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 la. Okay. Well, we are actually, I was supposed to wrap up on the hour. We're 20 minutes over. I was so excited about the Dock Raiders and then got started talking about Goblin Macbeth. We're going to finish on the half hour instead, so 10 minutes from now. Let's go ahead and do last call for tips. Anybody who is enjoying the show and would like to see more stuff like this, it is deeply appreciated if you can make this possible. Some people are like, well, Joe, I don't like your streams. I really only like your videos. I don't want to tip because then you'll want to stream more. It's like, well, the thing is, the videos basically make no money. And the episode's not making money means I would have to go back to my day job if people didn't tip a lot during the streams. The tips are what let me avoid a day job and then be available to record those courthouse episodes and stuff like that. All of those collabs normally get recorded at a time that I would have to work. And you might say, Joe, if you just schedule time off work in advance, you could still record with the Hermits. Every time we try to record something with the Hermits, it gets rescheduled 3 times. Trying to be available for the beginnings of Hermitcraft seasons. I couldn't just take one day off work because we would possibly try to record, there'd be some sort of problem with the server, and then everybody'd be like, I'm too tired to have fun now. Can we just do it tomorrow? And so then I'd have to take the next day off too. And if I didn't lock them both down in advance, then that's a problem. What if we move it to Wednesday? No, don't move it to Wednesday. Like, it is so much easier being able to do big group stuff on Hermitcraft, supported by streaming schedule that I can move around rather than a work schedule that I only had limited flexibility with. I had some flexibility, but it was not unlimited. So, thanks to everybody. Hell for Gamer says, okay, I'm off to see Shakespeare myself. Got a bit of a drive and dinner plans with the wife. See you when I'm a little bit more cultured next time. Alrighty, enjoy Hell for Gamers. Colt Goddess says, I like both the videos and the streams. Well, thank you. I'm glad. Not everybody does. They have different paces. But the streams are what make the videos possible. I mean, I would still make Hermitcraft videos. Like, I made Hermitcraft episodes for years, but people were constantly like, Joe, how come you're not doing more? How come you're not more collabs? How come you don't record with the other Hermits more? How come I never see you with so-and-so? It's like, well, I just can't. Time is a factor. So. Bespectacle Gwen says, the stream has such a good vibe. Thank you. Hey, thank you very much to Miranda for tipping 11. That is going to put us now 8 away from our next face camera expansion milestone. So thank you very much. Let's go put some blocks away. This is getting increasingly terrible over here. We should probably just trash those entirely. Trash those. Da, 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 da. Trash those. Dee, 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 doo. Yeah, we're going to need to break up a lot of this. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Was I never actually went to the coordinates on this thing here and marked them out. Okay. Let's maybe go do that. So that is 7, 749. Welcome, Phil Hall. Life. So we're going to 749 negative 2355. 748. So we need to go down to, or 748 2355. Okay. So this is definitely a block that is going to be under the water. Okay. So what's that? That is 744 negative 2364. What I should probably be doing is marking these out somehow to make it clear that these are actually like where the water is going to go. That would have been smart. So we do have stuff to make torches with, or with which to make torches. Somewhere. There we go. Getting things done in here. Do 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 do. La da 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 da. Pum ba ba bum bum. Pum ba da ba da ba da 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 da. Dee 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 dee. Oh, I'm like, why am I so hungry in the game? I have not eaten. Okay. Oh, we are nowhere near where we're supposed to be. Okay, yeah, that's the one of them. And that's the next one of them. Okay, so we're actually going to need to mine in a good ways out there. So we could start putting grass in along here, marking that out. That's a whole thing. Let's figure out how far this way we need to go. I'm going to take that line and put that down there. 750 negative 2351. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so now we're describing an arc. Yay! Let's get some animals. 748. Okay, because it's coming back this way now. Negative 23646. Yay! Okay. Let's da da do 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 da. Bum 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 bum. Okay, so once these lines become relatively so once these curves resolve into lines, basically we break down each curve into a series of short line segments. But then we eventually will hit a point where it's like, oh, we have big line segments, and then we can do fancy stuff with slope and work through things way faster. Okay. Let's go lay our heads down in Dream over here real quick. Up in the bed, we'll lay our heads down. Doing it now anyhow. Dun 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 dun. Okay. Next problem. Okay, so what now? So we've got that partially. That feels wider along there than it should be. Let's zoom out and look at that. Oh no, that's actually supposed to be pretty wide. That's actually supposed to be pretty wide. Okay. So, is that a straight shot on the line segment until here? Nah. that's about as far as we can go before the curve catches up to us. So that is now going to be 732, negative 2318. That's right about here. Ta-da! Yay. So once we get the rough shape in, we can just work from there, nice and easy. I should probably start putting a bunch of grass along here, I'm realizing, because this is all going to have to be cleared out. We can go ahead and hide that navigator window now. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Okay. Let's go ahead and make sure that we've got Twitch muted. And let's see here. It looks like our friend Cub Fan has some sort of event Minecraft thing going on where he's on a team. Let's see, can we figure out who his team is? I don't know. It's just team. Oh, he's playing with Lagundo Recrap 406 trillion and Kuraway. I don't know these people, but I do know Cub Fan. So when you get over there, we're going to raid Cub Fan. He's playing Block Wars. Our raid message is, howdy y'all, Joe Hill's raid here. Thank y'all so much for hanging out tonight. Or this afternoon. Appreciate y'all. It's always fun. Make sure to check out my stuff in the future. You can follow or subscribe if you want. Or not. It's fine. Low pressure. Okay, our raid message is, howdy y'all, Joe Hill's raid here. Until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville,